There was a planet in the universe that no civilization dared to name. Not because it was sacred, not because it was protected by an ancient empire, but because every species that had ever landed there had disappeared. The planet was known
Move to
in the
waypoint
oldest
Gamma.
alien
Watch the
records
perimeter.
only by a number, V91.
Copy that.
For nearly
Moving now.
8,000 years, explorers had tried
Move
to
to
uncover
waypoint
its
Gamma.
secret.
Watch the perimeter.
Military fleets had entered its atmosphere.
Copy that.
Scientific
Moving now.
expeditions had landed on its surface. Machines had been sent into its oceans, its forests, and its underground caverns. None of them came back. Not one. And the strangest part was this. The planet never attacked them. There were no massive explosions. No alien army. No giant creatures waiting at the landing zones. The ships simply stopped communicating. Then they vanished. That was why the galaxy eventually created a single rule. Never land on V91. For centuries, nobody questioned that rule. Until humanity found the planet. Captain Ethan Ward stared at the image floating above the command table. The planet looked beautiful. Almost impossibly beautiful. Blue oceans covered more than half its surface. Massive green continents stretched beneath clouds that moved in strange circular patterns. 3 small moons hung above the northern hemisphere. From orbit, V91 looked like paradise. But Ethan wasn't looking at the oceans. He was looking at the black region near the planet's equator. A continent-sized patch of darkness. No satellite could see through it. No radar could penetrate it. And every probe sent toward it had disappeared. Behind Ethan stood 12 members of the exploration team. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, biologists, people who had spent years preparing for worlds that nobody else wanted to visit. Dr. Mara Chin stepped closer to the hologram. How long has this planet been abandoned? Ethan looked at her. According to the oldest records? Yes. 7,912 years. Mara frowned. And nobody has survived? Ethan shook his head. Not exactly. She looked at him. What does that mean? Ethan enlarged the hologram. Hundreds of small symbols appeared around the planet. Ship signatures. Thousands of them. Everyone assumes the explorers disappeared. Mara studied the data. Didn't they? No. Ethan pointed toward the black continent. They returned. The room became silent. Mara's expression changed. That's impossible. That's what I thought. Ethan opened another file. The screen filled with old transmission records. Each one had come from a different civilization. Different languages. Different time periods. Different ships. But the final message was always the same. We are leaving. Mara stared at the words. Then why aren't there any survivors? Ethan slowly looked at her. Because they never reached space. Silence. One of the soldiers swallowed. So you're saying the planet lets them leave, but something stops them from getting home? No. Ethan turned off the hologram. I'm saying we don't know what happened. He looked around the room. And that's exactly why we're going. 6 hours later, the human exploration vessel Odyssey entered V91's atmosphere. The ship shook violently. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. Atmospheric pressure increasing. Compensating. Gravity is changing. Ethan gripped the command chair. How much? 20%. That's impossible. It was 40% 2 seconds ago. The ship dropped another 1,000 meters. Then suddenly, everything stopped. The shaking disappeared. The alarms went silent. The clouds opened. And the Odyssey emerged beneath them. Everyone on the bridge stared through the forward window. The planet was breathtaking. Huge silver trees covered the valleys. Rivers glowed faintly beneath the surface. Massive mountains rose thousands of meters into the sky. And far in the distance, something moved. Mara leaned toward the window. Is that an animal? Ethan zoomed the camera. The image became clearer. It wasn't an animal. It was a structure. A gigantic black tower stood in the middle of the forest. It was so tall that its top disappeared into the clouds. And around it were thousands of smaller structures. Buildings, roads, machines. An entire civilization. Abandoned, Mara whispered. Someone lived here. Ethan stared at the ruins. No. He zoomed in again. The buildings weren't damaged. There were no signs of war. No collapsed walls. No burned cities. Everything looked perfectly preserved. Then the ship's computer spoke. "Captain." Ethan looked toward the navigation officer. "What?" The officer was pale. "The planet just detected us." Everyone froze. Mara turned toward him. "How?" "I don't know." The officer looked at the screen. "We're receiving a signal." Ethan stood. "From the ruins?" "No." "From the tower?" The officer shook his head. "It's coming from beneath us." The bridge went silent. Ethan looked through the window. The beautiful planet suddenly didn't look beautiful anymore. It looked like something that had been sleeping. And humanity had just knocked on its door. "Can you translate the signal?" Ethan asked. The computer processed the transmission. 3 seconds. 5 seconds. 10. Then a line of text appeared on the main screen. Not alien language. Not an ancient code. Something much worse. The computer had translated it into English. "Welcome back, humanity." Nobody moved. Mara stared at the screen. "Humanity." Ethan's face hardened. "We've never been here." The computer suddenly displayed another message. "That is what you were told." Then every light inside the Odyssey went out. For exactly 3 seconds. There was complete darkness. When the lights returned, the planet had changed. The forests were glowing. The oceans were glowing. The mountains were glowing. And beneath the ground, something enormous had opened its eyes. Ethan looked at the black continent. For the first time, he understood why every civilization had failed. They hadn't been exploring V91. They had been remembered by it. And now, it remembered humanity. The Odyssey remained completely silent. No engines. No communications. No navigation. For almost 20 seconds, Captain Ethan Ward simply stared at the message glowing on the main screen. "Welcome back, humanity." Nobody on the bridge spoke. Then Mara finally broke the silence. "Captain, we've never been here." "I know." "Humanity has never even recorded this planet." "I know." She pointed toward the screen. "Then why does it know us?" Ethan didn't answer. Because there was another question that bothered him even more. Why had the planet called them back? Not welcome. Not hello. Welcome back. As if humanity had already visited V91. As if someone had erased that part of human history. Or worse, as if humanity itself had forgotten. "Restart the engines," Ethan ordered. The chief engineer immediately tried. Nothing happened. Engines aren't responding. Power. 30%. Navigation. Offline. Communications. The officer shook his head. Dead. Ethan looked at the planet below. They were trapped. And they had been trapped for less than a minute. The 12 members of the expedition gathered in the central operations room. The walls displayed dozens of readings from the planet. Temperature. Atmospheric pressure. Radiation. Magnetic activity. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Dr. Marachin examined the biological readings. "This atmosphere is almost identical to Earth's." Ethan looked at her. "Almost. Oxygen concentration is within human safe levels. Nitrogen is slightly higher. Gravity is only 3% stronger than Earth. So we can survive outside." "Yes." Ethan looked toward the others. "Then we go outside." One of the soldiers immediately objected. "Captain, that's exactly what everyone before us did." "And they disappeared." "Exactly." Ethan nodded. "Which means we need to find out why." Nobody liked the answer. But they prepared anyway. The landing craft touched the ground 20 minutes later. The moment the ramp opened, cold air entered the cabin. Ethan stepped outside first. His boots touched black soil. Nothing happened. No explosion. No alarm. No creature attacked. Just silence. Behind him, the rest of the team followed. Mara crouched and touched the ground. "Interesting." "What?" She rubbed the soil between her fingers. "It's warm." Ethan looked around. The temperature was only 4 degrees Celsius. "How warm?" 32 degrees. She looked at him. "Underground heat?" "Maybe." Ethan looked toward the forest. The trees were enormous. Their trunks were silver. Their leaves were almost transparent. And every few seconds, faint blue light moved through their branches, like blood flowing through veins. The team moved forward. They walked for nearly 15 minutes before they found the first ruin. A massive stone doorway stood between two trees. No walls. No building. Just a doorway. Mara examined it. There are symbols. Ethan approached. The symbols covered the entire surface. Thousands of them. Then Mara froze. Captain. What? She pointed at the center. There was a symbol unlike the others. A simple circle, with 3 lines crossing through it. Ethan recognized it immediately. His face changed. Where have you seen that? Mara shook her head. I haven't. Ethan reached into his jacket. He pulled out a small metal identification tag. On the back was the official symbol of the Human Exploration Authority. A circle. 3 lines. Exactly the same. Mara stared at it. That's impossible. Ethan turned the tag over. This symbol has been used by human explorers for more than 200 years. Mara looked at the doorway. Then why is it here? Nobody answered. Suddenly, the doorway opened. Not because someone touched it. It simply opened. A deep vibration moved through the ground. The trees around them began glowing. And a voice came from inside. Not through their helmets. Not through the communication system. The voice appeared directly inside their minds. You took longer this time. One of the soldiers raised his weapon. Show yourself. The voice responded. You always say that. Ethan stepped forward. Who are you? Silence. I am the 91. Mara's eyes widened. The planet. The soldiers looked at each other. Ethan remained calm. What happened to the previous explorers? The planet answered immediately. They failed. Why? They came to conquer me. Ethan looked around. And humanity? The voice became quieter. You came to listen. Mara stepped forward. We've never been here before. The planet didn't respond. Ethan repeated the question. Have humans visited this planet? This time, the answer came slowly. Your ancestors did. A cold feeling passed through Ethan. How long ago? Before your species remembered itself. Mara whispered. Before human civilization? Before your first language. The team stood completely still. Then the planet showed them something. The black walls of the doorway suddenly became transparent. A massive image appeared. Human beings. Primitive humans. Standing beneath the stars. But they weren't alone. Beside them stood creatures from dozens of alien species. Species that had supposedly evolved millions of light years away from Earth. Mara stared at the image. This can't be real. The planet continued. Your ancestors came here with the others. Ethan looked at the ancient humans. What happened? The image changed. The aliens were fighting. Weapons filled the sky. Cities burned. Entire continents were destroyed. And at the center of it all stood something enormous. A black structure. The same tower they had seen from orbit. Mara stepped backward. What is that? The planet answered. The Arca. What does it do? It remembers everything. The image suddenly changed again. The ancient humans were running toward the tower. The other species were attacking them. Then something impossible happened. The humans entered the tower. The doors closed. And every other species disappeared. Mara stared at Ethan. Where did they go? The planet answered. I sent them home. Ethan's eyes narrowed. And the humans? Silence. Then the planet spoke. The humans asked me to forget them. Ethan felt his stomach tighten. Why? The planet's voice became almost sorrowful. Because they were afraid of what they had become. Before Ethan could ask another question, the ground violently shook. The ancient image disappeared. A warning appeared across every helmet. Unknown energy detected. The soldiers raised their weapons. Mara looked toward the forest. Something was moving between the trees. Not one creature. Hundreds. Tall silhouettes. They moved silently. Slowly. And they were coming toward the team. Ethan lifted his weapon. Everyone back to the landing craft. Mara looked at the creatures. Captain. What? They aren't attacking. Ethan watched them carefully. She was right. The creatures stopped approximately 50 meters away. They stood perfectly still. Then every one of them lowered its head, like soldiers showing respect. Ethan slowly lowered his weapon. Who are they? The planet answered. They are the last ones who remember. One creature stepped forward. Its body was covered in black armor. Its face had no eyes, only a vertical glowing line. It pointed directly at Ethan. Then it spoke. Not through the planet, not through their minds, with its own voice. A voice that sounded ancient and broken. You came back. Ethan stared at it. We've never been here. The creature tilted its head. Then it said 4 words that made every human on the team freeze. You said that before. Behind the creature, the enormous forest began to move. Trees bent away from something approaching. The ground cracked. And from beneath the planet, a sound like a heartbeat began to rise. Slow. Massive. Alive. Thump. The creature looked toward the ground. Then back at Ethan. It's awake. Thump. Mara whispered. What is? The creature's glowing face turned toward the black continent. The reason your ancestors erased themselves. Thump. And this time, the entire planet shook. The sound rolled across the continent. Every tree shook. Every mountain trembled. Even the air seemed to vibrate. The human team stood frozen. Nobody knew what they were hearing. But the strange armored creature did. It stepped backward. Then another step. For the first time, Ethan saw something that looked like fear in its posture. Tell me what that is, Ethan demanded. The creature didn't answer. Instead, it looked toward the ground. Thump. The sound came again. Closer this time. Mara looked at her scanner. Captain. What? That's not seismic activity. Ethan turned toward her. What is it? She stared at the readings. It's biological. The team went silent. Biological? Mara nodded slowly. Something beneath the surface is producing the vibration. Ethan looked at the creature. Is this what killed the previous expeditions? The creature finally looked at him. No. Its voice was low. The planet didn't kill them. Ethan waited. They killed themselves. The creature introduced itself as Kale. It claimed to be one of the last survivors of an ancient species called the Averin. According to Kale, the Averin had once controlled hundreds of worlds. They had explored deeper into the universe than any civilization before them. And eventually, they discovered V91. At first, they believed the planet was a natural paradise. Then they discovered the archive, a structure buried beneath the surface. A structure that contained memories. Not just memories of V91. Memories of the universe. Every civilization that had ever visited. Every war. Every discovery. Every species. Every death. The archive remembered everything. But that wasn't its greatest power. Mara looked at Kale. What did the archive do? Kale's expression became difficult to read. It showed the truth. Which truth? The truth about your species. Ethan frowned. Our species? Kale nodded. Humanity was here long before the first human civilization. Mara immediately shook her head. That's impossible. Kale looked at her. You measure history by written records. He pointed toward the ground. The planet measures history by memory. He touched the black soil. Your history is not what you remember. Ethan stepped closer. Then show us. Kale stared at him. You really want to know? Yes. You may not like what you find. Ethan didn't hesitate. Show us. Kale led them toward the black continent. The journey took nearly an hour. As they moved deeper into the forest, the planet became stranger. There were no insects, no birds, no natural sounds. The forest was completely silent. But the trees seemed to react to the humans. Whenever Ethan passed one, its branches slowly moved toward him, almost like they were trying to recognize him. Mara noticed it too. They're responding to us. Ethan touched one of the silver trunks. The moment his hand made contact, he saw something. A city. Not an alien city. A human city. thousands of years old. Massive towers stretched into the sky. Vehicles moved silently through the air. Humans walked among aliens. Different species. Different languages. All living together. Then the vision changed. The sky turned red. Ships appeared. Thousands of them. An enormous alien fleet attacked the city. Humans fought back. But they weren't using conventional weapons. Ethan saw humans standing inside giant machines. Machines shaped like armored warriors. Their bodies were surrounded by blue energy. One human raised his hand. The sky opened. A wave of energy destroyed an entire fleet. Ethan pulled his hand away. The vision disappeared. He stumbled backward. Mara caught him. "What did you see?" Ethan looked at her. "Humans." "What about them?" "They weren't primitive." Mara stared at him. "What do you mean?" "They were advanced." Kale watched them. "Now you understand." Ethan looked at him. "Why did we forget?" Kale didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "Because you asked the planet to make you forget." Mara's face went pale. "Why would humanity do that?" Kale pointed toward the Black Continent. "Because of what happened next." They reached the edge of the continent at sunset. The black land stretched for hundreds of kilometers. Nothing grew there. No trees. No grass. No water. Just dark stone. And in the center stood the archive. It was much larger than it had appeared from orbit. The tower rose beyond the clouds. Its surface looked like black glass. Strange symbols moved beneath it like living veins. Kale stopped. "We cannot go farther." Ethan looked at him. "Why?" "Because I cannot enter." "Why not?" Kale looked toward the tower. "It remembers me." Mara frowned. "And that's bad." Kale turned toward her. "It remembers everything I have done." He looked back at the tower. "And I don't want it to remember." Ethan stepped forward. The moment he crossed onto the black stone, the tower reacted. A blue line appeared across its surface. Then another. Then thousands. The entire structure began glowing. Kale immediately stepped backward. "No." Ethan stopped. "What?" Kale stared at him. "It shouldn't respond to you." Mara checked her scanner. "What is happening?" Kale whispered. "The archive is recognizing its creator." Everyone froze. Ethan looked at the tower. "Creator?" Kale nodded. "Humanity didn't discover the archive." He pointed at Ethan. "Humanity built it." The ground opened. A massive staircase appeared beneath the humans. It descended into darkness. Ethan looked down. The stairs seemed to continue forever. Mara whispered, "Captain." "I know." "Should we go in?" Ethan looked at the enormous structure. For thousands of years, every civilization had feared this planet. Every expedition had disappeared. And now they finally knew why. The planet wasn't trying to kill them. It was trying to show them something. Ethan activated his helmet light. "We're going down." The team followed, step by step. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. After several minutes, the stairs ended. They entered a massive underground chamber. The walls were covered with images. Thousands of them. Human faces. Alien faces. Entire civilizations. Mara walked toward one wall. "This is a record." Ethan looked around. "Of what?" "Everything." Then the lights turned on. One by one. The chamber illuminated. And at the center stood a massive circular machine. It looked almost identical to the symbol on Ethan's identification tag. The same circle. The same 3 lines. Mara approached it. "This is the archive core." Ethan stepped closer. A voice filled the chamber. Not the planet. Not Kale. A human voice. And strangely familiar. "If you are hearing this, then humanity has returned." Ethan froze. The voice continued. "You will probably believe you discovered this world by accident." The pause. "You did not." Mara looked at Ethan. The voice continued. "We erased our memory because we had no other choice." The chamber suddenly filled with images. Humans. Millions of them. Standing beneath a black sky. And above them was something enormous. Something that made the alien fleets from Ethan's earlier vision look microscopic. The voice spoke again. We were not the first civilization to discover the universe. The image changed. But we were the first to discover what was hiding behind it. The chamber went dark. Then one final image appeared. A human face. Older. Scarred. Standing inside the archive. He looked directly at Ethan. And Ethan recognized him. Not from history. Not from any database. From his own dreams. The man spoke. Ethan Ward. Ethan's blood ran cold. Mara stepped backward. The man's expression was almost sad. If you have reached this chamber, then the creature has already awakened. Ethan stared at the recording. What creature? The man's face changed. Fear appeared in his eyes. For the first time, the ancient human sounded terrified. Not a creature. A deep vibration shook the chamber. Thump. The lights flickered. Thump. The machine began activating. The man's final words echoed through the chamber. It's the reason we built the archive. Thump. The floor cracked beneath Ethan's feet. Something massive moved beneath them. The recorded human whispered, and it's the reason we erased ourselves. The recording ended. The chamber became silent. Then a new message appeared. Not from the archive. Not from the old human. From something beneath the planet. 4 words appeared in red. I remember you, Ethan. Ethan stared at the message. Mara looked at him. Captain. He didn't respond. Because somewhere beneath them, something had started climbing. And whatever it was, it already knew his name. The first sound was a crack. Then another. Then the entire floor beneath the archive began to split apart. Ethan pulled Mara backward. Everyone move. The team scattered as black stone broke beneath their feet. A deep vibration filled the chamber. Thump. The walls shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Then something moved beneath the floor. Something enormous. Mara stared at her scanner. It's rising. Ethan looked at the readings. How big? She couldn't answer. Doctor? Mara swallowed. The scanner can't find the edges. The soldier beside her looked terrified. How is that possible? Mara slowly raised her eyes. Because it's bigger than the chamber. Another crack opened. This time, a strange blue light came through. The same blue light that had flowed through the trees. The same light that had appeared on the archive. Ethan suddenly understood. The entire planet is connected to it. Mara nodded. I think so. Kale's voice came through the communicator. Get out. Ethan looked toward the entrance. Where are you? Outside. What happened? Kale sounded different. Afraid. The planet has started remembering. Ethan frowned. What does that mean? Kale paused. Then he said, it means the memories are no longer staying in the archive. The walls suddenly changed. Images appeared everywhere. Millions of them. Humanity's entire forgotten history was being displayed at once. Ancient cities. Human ships. Alien civilizations. Exploration. Discovery. And then a single image appeared. A human child. She stood alone inside a massive laboratory. Ethan stared at her. He knew her. Not personally. But somehow, he knew her face. Mara noticed. Who is she? Ethan didn't answer. The image changed. The child was older. Then older again. A teenager. A scientist. A soldier. Then an old woman. Every stage of her life appeared in seconds. Finally, the old woman stood inside the archive. She looked directly at the camera. And Ethan realized something. The old woman had the same eyes as him. Mara whispered, Captain, I see it. Who is she? Ethan shook his head. I don't know. The recording began. The woman's voice filled the chamber. If you're watching this, the archive has chosen you. Ethan stepped closer. Chosen me for what? The recording continued. You are not the first human to return. Images of other humans appeared. Dozens. Hundreds. Thousands. All standing inside the archive. All looking confused. All wearing different uniforms. Different generations. Different centuries. Ethan stared. These are humans. Mara nodded. But their technology is different. The woman continued. We tried to recover the memories. The pause. We failed. The image changed. The humans were fighting each other. Some were trying to destroy the archive. Others were protecting it. Then the planet shook. The recording became distorted. The woman spoke faster. Listen carefully. Humanity didn't forget because we wanted to. We forgot because something was hunting us. The chamber went silent. Ethan whispered, "What was hunting us?" The woman looked toward something outside the recording. Her face became terrified. It learned how to follow memory. Then the recording ended. For several seconds, nobody moved. Mara finally spoke. If that's true, then every memory humanity ever created could be a beacon. Ethan looked at the archive. And this planet stores memories. Exactly. So whatever hunted humanity could follow us here. Mara's eyes widened. Captain. The answer came from the darkness. A voice. Not human. Not alien. Something deeper. Something ancient. It already has. The team turned. A figure stood at the far end of the chamber. Human-shaped. But impossibly tall. Its body was covered in black material that moved like liquid. No eyes. No mouth. Only a glowing symbol across its chest. The same symbol as the archive. Kale's voice screamed through the communicator. Do not let it touch you. The creature moved. Not quickly. Not slowly. It simply appeared closer. One moment it stood 50 meters away. Ethan raised his weapon. Fire. The soldiers opened fire. Energy rounds struck the creature. Nothing happened. The bullets disappeared into its body. The creature continued walking. Mara shouted. Energy isn't affecting it. Ethan switched weapons. Use kinetic rounds. The soldiers changed ammunition. The chamber exploded with gunfire. The creature stopped. For 1 second, Ethan thought they had succeeded. Then the creature raised one hand. Every weapon in the room shut down. The soldiers stared. What happened? Ethan looked at his rifle. It's not responding. The creature looked directly at him. And then it smiled. Not with a mouth. The entire symbol across its chest changed shape. A voice appeared inside Ethan's head. You remember me? Ethan staggered. Images flooded his mind. A battlefield. A burning planet. Thousands of human soldiers. A giant black creature standing among them. Ethan saw himself. Older. Wearing a completely different uniform. Holding a weapon he had never seen. Standing directly in front of this creature. The vision ended. Ethan dropped to one knee. Mara grabbed him. Captain. He looked up. The creature was still standing there. And now Ethan knew something. He had fought it before. Not in this life. Not in this century. But somehow, he had fought it. The archive suddenly activated. A wave of blue energy swept through the chamber. The creature stepped backward. For the first time, it looked angry. Ethan slowly stood. What are you? The creature didn't answer. Instead, the planet spoke. The last memory. Mara looked around. What does that mean? The planet continued. Every civilization creates a memory of its greatest fear. The creature raised its hand. When a civilization dies, that fear survives. Ethan stared at it. So it's not an alien. No. Then what is it? The answer came softly. It is what the universe remembers when you are gone. The creature suddenly attacked. The chamber exploded with blue light. Ethan was thrown across the floor. Mara screamed. The archive began collapsing. Kale shouted through the communicator. Ethan, run. Ethan looked toward the exit. Then he saw something. A small door behind the archive. It had just opened. Inside was a room. And in that room were hundreds of human bodies. Frozen. Perfectly preserved. All wearing the same uniform. All carrying the same symbol. And everybody looked exactly like Ethan. Mara saw them too. Her face went white. Captain. Ethan couldn't move. One of the bodies opened its eyes. Then another. Then another. Hundreds of identical humans slowly turned their heads toward Ethan. And together, they spoke. You're late. The creature behind them screamed. The archive went completely dark. And somewhere beneath the planet, something even larger woke up. Ethan could not move. Hundreds of identical faces stared back at him from the dark chamber. Same eyes. Same jawline. Same scar above the left eyebrow. Every one of them looked exactly like him. Mara stood beside him, speechless. What are they? Ethan slowly raised his weapon. I don't know. One of the frozen humans stepped forward. He was wearing an ancient version of the Human Exploration Authority uniform. The symbol on his chest was the same one Ethan had carried his entire career. The man looked at Ethan, then smiled. You still don't remember? Ethan's voice was cold. Remember what? The man pointed toward the ceiling. The beginning. Suddenly, the chamber lights returned. The frozen humans were not bodies. They were not clones. They were recordings. Thousands of human memories stored inside biological forms. Mara moved closer to one of them. Her scanner immediately went crazy. These aren't recordings. Ethan looked at her. What are they? Living memory. She stared at the readings. Their bodies are alive, but their minds are connected to the archive. Ethan looked at the ancient human. Why do they look like me? The man answered. Because you are one of us. Ethan shook his head. No. You are. No. The man stepped closer. You were created here. Ethan's expression hardened. I was born on Earth. The ancient human smiled. That is what you remember. The archive suddenly projected a massive image above them. Blue. Beautiful. Familiar. Then the image zoomed backward. Earth became smaller. Then smaller. Then a tiny point in the darkness. The image continued moving backward through time. Millions of years. Hundreds of millions. Billions. Until the planet became completely different. The continents were unrecognizable. The oceans were different. And there were no humans. Then something appeared. A structure descending from space. A massive human ship. Mara whispered. That's impossible. The ancient human answered. Humanity did not evolve on Earth. Ethan stared at him. We did. No. The man pointed toward the image. We arrived. The room went silent. Ethan looked at Earth. If we didn't evolve there. He couldn't finish. Mara did. Then where did humanity come from? The ancient human looked toward the black ceiling. Here. The word echoed through the chamber. Ethan felt something cold move through him. 91? The man nodded. The first humans were born on this planet. Everything Ethan believed about humanity began collapsing. The ancient human explained that V91 had once been the birthplace of a civilization unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Humans had discovered faster-than-light travel. They had mapped thousands of galaxies. They had communicated with ancient alien civilizations. And eventually, they discovered something beyond the physical universe. Something that could consume memories. Something that could erase civilizations without destroying their bodies. They called it the Hollow. Mara listened carefully. What does it want? The ancient human looked at her. Everything. Everything. Every memory. Every civilization. Every story. Every thought. He pointed toward the creature. The Hollow cannot survive without memory. Ethan looked at the black creature. So it feeds on civilizations. Yes. Then why hasn't it destroyed the galaxy? The ancient human smiled sadly. Because humanity stopped it. Ethan's eyes narrowed. How? We became the bait. The chamber filled with another vision. Thousands of human ships surrounded V91. The ancient humans had built the archive. They had stored the memories of countless civilizations inside it. Then they created something else. A false trail. They erased humanity from galactic history. They moved the surviving humans to Earth. They destroyed their own records. They erased their own memories. And they left V91 behind. The Hollow followed the archive. Not Earth. Not humanity. The memory of humanity. Mara finally understood. The planet wasn't a prison. No. The archive wasn't a weapon. No. It was a trap. The ancient human nodded. For thousands of years. Ethan stared at the creature. And now we came back. The ancient human looked at him. Yes. And we woke it. Yes. Ethan closed his eyes. Then we have to put it back to sleep. The ancient human shook his head. You can't. Why? Because it isn't asleep anymore. The room shook. A massive crack appeared across the floor. The hollow raised its head. Then something happened that none of them expected. The creature spoke. Not in an alien language. Not in the strange voice from before. It spoke perfect English. I remember Earth. Ethan froze. The creature continued. I remember the first human. Another crack opened. I remember you. Ethan stepped forward. Then remember this. The hollow stopped. Ethan raised his weapon. We're not afraid of you. The creature tilted its head. Then it laughed. The sound was unlike anything human. You should be. The archive suddenly exploded with light. Every stored memory in the chamber activated at once. Human voices filled the air. Millions of voices. Scientists. Children. Soldiers. Explorers. Families. Generations of humanity. All speaking at once. Ethan fell to his knees. Mara grabbed his shoulder. What's happening? The ancient human looked toward the archive. It's waking the original memory. What original memory? He pointed toward Ethan. You. Ethan looked at him. What? You are not the first Ethan Ward. The chamber became silent. The ancient human continued. You are the last. Ethan's heart stopped. What does that mean? The answer came from the planet itself. You are the original human memory. The ground beneath Ethan opened. Blue lights surrounded him. Every human in the chamber turned toward him. Then they disappeared. One by one. Their bodies dissolved into streams of light. The light entered Ethan. Memories flooded his mind. He saw V-91. He saw the first humans. He saw Earth. He saw the wars. He saw the archive being built. He saw the first battle against the Hollow. And finally, he saw himself. Standing millions of years ago. Facing the Hollow. Holding the same weapon he carried now. The memory ended with a single sentence. If you return, finish what we started. Ethan opened his eyes. The entire chamber was glowing. Mara stared at him. Captain? Ethan stood slowly. His eyes were no longer the same. He looked toward the Hollow. And for the first time, the creature stepped backward. Ethan raised his hand. The archive responded. The entire planet responded. The oceans began glowing. The mountains began glowing. The forests began glowing. V-91 was awakening. But it wasn't awakening for the Hollow. It was awakening for humanity. Ethan looked at Mara. Get to the ship. What are you going to do? He looked toward the creature. Finish the war. Mara shook her head. You can't fight that thing alone. Ethan gave her a calm smile. I'm not alone. Behind him, thousands of human silhouettes appeared. Ancient soldiers. Scientists. Explorers. Every human memory stored inside the planet. Every human who had ever stood against the Hollow. And they all looked toward Ethan. Waiting. The Hollow screamed. The planet answered. Thump. Then the sky above V-91 split open. Something enormous began descending through the clouds. Not an alien fleet. Not a spaceship. Something much older. Something built by humanity. And its weapons were already charging. The sky above V-91 split open. Clouds spiraled into a massive vortex. Lightning raced across the atmosphere. And through the opening came something that had not been seen for millions of years. A human fleet. Not hundreds of ships. Not thousands. Millions. They emerged from the darkness one after another, silent and enormous, their black hulls covered in ancient symbols. Mara stood outside the Odyssey, staring upward. What am I looking at? Kale stood beside her. For the first time since Ethan had met him, the ancient warrior looked relieved. The first human army. Mara looked at him. They've been here this whole time? Kale shook his head. No. Then where did they come from? Kale looked toward the archive. They were waiting for humanity to remember. Deep beneath the planet, Ethan stood before the hollow. The creature was no longer smiling. The ancient memories surrounding Ethan had transformed into something else. They were no longer recordings. They were becoming real. Human soldiers appeared beside him. Human scientists. Explorers. Engineers. People from civilizations that had vanished millions of years ago. Ethan looked at them. None of them spoke. They didn't need to. They were memories of humanity. And now those memories had a purpose. Ethan raised his hand. The archive responded. A massive blue sphere formed above him. The hollow stepped backward. You cannot destroy me. Ethan looked at it. Maybe. He took one step forward. But I don't have to. The hollow stopped. Ethan continued. You've survived because every civilization fought you the same way. The creature tilted its head. They tried to destroy you. Ethan lowered his weapon. We're going to do something different. The hollow's voice became louder. What? Ethan smiled. We're going to remember you. The creature froze. For the first time, it looked afraid. Mara suddenly understood what Ethan meant. The hollow fed on memory. It survived by consuming civilizations and erasing their existence. But the archive had stored everything. Every civilization. Every death. Every battle. Every name. Every memory. The hollow had spent millions of years feeding on forgotten civilizations. But now humanity had awakened the archive. And the archive was doing the one thing the hollow could not survive. It was restoring everything. Across the galaxy, ancient civilizations began appearing in the archive's network. Dead worlds. Lost species. Forgotten languages. Old wars. Lost histories. All returning. All being remembered. The hollow screamed. Its body began breaking apart. Black energy poured from it. It tried to escape. But there was nowhere to go. Because everywhere it looked, there were memories. The memories of civilizations it had consumed. The memories it had tried to erase. They surrounded it. Thousands. Millions. Billions. The hollow screamed again. Stop. Ethan stepped forward. You spent millions of years making the universe forget. He raised his hand. So we're going to make the universe remember. Above the planet, the human fleet opened fire. But not with missiles. Not with lasers. Instead, every ship released a wave of blue energy. The wave traveled through space. It passed through planets, stars, nebulas, entire solar systems. And everywhere it went, something happened. Ancient ruins began lighting up. Dead machines activated. Lost languages appeared on alien screens. Civilizations that believed they were alone suddenly discovered records of their ancestors. The galaxy began remembering. And with every memory restored, the hollow became weaker. Kale watched the energy spread across the sky. His eyes filled with tears. My people. Mara looked at him. What? My people are being remembered. On a distant world, the last Averin ruins began glowing. For the first time in thousands of years, their ancient symbols appeared in the sky. Kale fell to his knees. They're not gone. Mara placed a hand on his shoulder. They were never forgotten. Inside the archive, Ethan stood face to face with the hollow. Its body was collapsing. Black particles escaped into the air. But it still refused to die. Humanity will eventually forget again. Ethan shook his head. No. Your species is temporary. Maybe. Your civilizations will fall. Probably. The hollow became almost invisible. Then I will wait. Ethan smiled. That's the difference between you and us. The hollow stared at him. Ethan pointed toward the archive. Humans die. He looked toward the millions of memories surrounding them. But our stories don't have to. The archive activated. A final wave of light passed through the chamber. The hollow disappeared. Not destroyed. Not killed. Something else happened. It was remembered. Every civilization it had consumed. Every species it had erased. Every world it had destroyed. Every memory it had stolen was returned to the universe. And the hollow lost the only thing that gave it power. Forgetfulness. It became nothing. A shadow with no memory. A creature with no past. No purpose. No identity. Then it vanished. For several minutes, there was complete silence. Ethan stood alone inside the archive. The ancient human soldiers were gone. The old memories were gone. The hollow was gone. Only Mara remained. She walked toward him. Is it over? Ethan looked at the glowing walls. I think so. Mara looked around. Then what happens now? Ethan smiled. Now we tell Earth the truth. 3 days later, the Odyssey left V-91. The human fleet disappeared shortly afterward. The planet returned to silence. But it was no longer a forbidden world. For the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy knew its true history. Humanity had not been born among the stars. Humanity had been born on V-91. Humanity had once been the most advanced civilization in the known universe. And humanity had willingly erased itself to protect the galaxy. The truth changed everything. Alien governments began reopening ancient archives. Scientists returned to forgotten worlds. Historians discovered civilizations that had been erased from history. And across the galaxy, one question became impossible to ignore. Why had humanity chosen to forget? Nobody knew. Except Ethan. Because before leaving V-91, he had discovered one final message hidden deep inside the archive. He kept it secret. For now. The message was simple. The hollow was not the first threat. Ethan stared at those words for a long time. Then another line appeared. It was running from something too. Ethan's expression changed. Mara noticed. What does it say? Ethan closed the file. Nothing. She frowned. Ethan. He looked through the window at the stars. For the first time since arriving at V-91, he wasn't afraid. He was curious. Because humanity had spent thousands of years believing it was alone in the universe. Now they knew that wasn't true. And somewhere beyond the edge of the galaxy, something had been watching the entire time, waiting for humanity to remember. Ethan looked at the stars. Then he smiled. Let's see what's out there. The Odyssey accelerated. Earth waited ahead. Behind them, V-91 remained silent. But deep beneath its surface, the archive continued glowing. One final message appeared. Not in English. Not in any known alien language. But the archive translated it automatically. Humanity has remembered. The pause. Then another sentence appeared. Now the universe will remember humanity. And far beyond the galaxy, something answered. Finally. The end.